So we tested the A6LF, the A6MF, the 7-speed dry DCT, and the SmartStream IVT, all after 200,000 miles. A clear winner. One transmission looked genuinely good on the bench, another was already past the point where a rebuild made sense, and the third one never made it that far. And the transmission everyone assumed would win did not. I am Meg, 18 years on Hyundai and Kia. We put the three most common Hyundai and Kia automatics on the teardown bench at the same target mileage and let the data speak for itself. Let us get into it. The 7-speed dry dual clutch was introduced by Hyundai and Kia around 2015, and it went into some of their most popular cars, the Elantra Sport, the Veloster, the Kona, the K5 GT. The older Tucson and Sportage with the 1.6 turbo, 2 clutches, no torque converter. So it shifts fast, and on paper, it delivers better fuel economy than a conventional automatic. The design idea was clean, 2 dry clutches, one for the odd gears, one for the even gears. So while you are driving in third, the transmission is already lining up fourth on the second clutch, waiting to slot in. Genuinely brilliant engineering on paper. Here's the problem. We could not get a 7-speed DCT to 200,000 miles for this test, and that is the finding, right there. The unit we ended up tearing down came from a 2018 Kia with just under 110,000 miles on it. It already had one clutch pack replaced under warranty at around 40,000 miles, and by 100,000 it was slipping again. So this is a transmission that has, functionally, already failed twice. So when we opened it up, the clutch friction material was gone. Not thin, gone. The measurement on the friction disc came in at 38 millimeters, and the wear threshold that Hyundai and Kia use in their service manual is 42. So the clutch was already below the point at which the manufacturer considers it consumable. And this is with only 2 years of active service since the last warranty replacement. Here's why. The dry clutch design puts a small friction disc under enormous heat every time you creep and stop and go traffic. Because unlike a torque converter, there is no fluid coupling to absorb the load. So you slip the clutch, the disc gets hot, the disc wears. And every school run in traffic, every parking lot, every crawl on the interstate wears it a little more. There is nothing rotating in a bath of oil to carry that heat away. So all of it goes into the friction material. Kia service personnel in some markets have quoted the actual working life of these clutches at 50 to 60,000 kilometers, which is roughly 35,000 miles. Owners in the US have reported catastrophic failure between 20 and 30,000. The class action lawsuits, and there are several, tell the same story. The actuators were the second problem. Each of the 2 clutches on a DCT is engaged and disengaged by a hydraulic actuator, and those actuators are working on a computer signal thousands of times per drive. So over 100,000 miles, we are talking about millions of engagement cycles per actuator. The wear on the actuator seals was significant, and that shows up as delayed engagement, the little half-second hesitation from a stop that so many owners describe. The 7-speed dry DCT never became a 200,000-mile transmission because the dry clutch design does not survive the way people actually drive their cars. Hyundai and Kia quietly discontinued it and moved to wet dual clutch and conventional automatics for the reason our teardown showed. Rebuild cost? There is no real rebuild. You replace the clutch assembly and the parts alone run $1,200 to $2,000 plus another $800 to $1,500 in labor. And you are essentially resetting the clock, not extending the life. Fast on paper, doomed in the school pickup line. The IVT, which stands for Intelligent Variable Transmission, is Hyundai's name for their CVT. And it went into the Elantra, the Kona, the Accent, the Venue, and the base Santa Cruz, starting in 2020. Here's what makes it different from most other CVTs. Instead of the segmented steel push belt that Nissan uses in the Jatco CVT, Hyundai uses a chain belt. So think of it this way. A steel push belt is like a bicycle chain made of tiny sliding plates. A chain belt is more like a proper motorcycle chain, stronger, less prone to slip, less prone to stretch over time. We tore down a 2022 Elantra IVT with 203,000 miles on it. Owner was diligent. Fluid changes every 40,000 miles, even though Hyundai says the fluid is lifetime. Every one of those fluid changes documented. Pan pull first. Fluid was pink, slightly darker than new. Trace metal material on the magnet, but nothing that suggested distress. Fluid particle count was actually low, comparable to the 6-speed at the same mileage. The maintenance history was doing its job. The chain belt itself surprised us. Wear across the plate faces was visible, but even. No stretch sections. No fraying at the edges. This is a component people were sure would fail early, and it was in genuinely good condition at 203,000 miles. The pulleys told the same story. The variator surfaces, which are the cone-shaped faces the belt rides against, showed a polished contact band but no scoring, no pitting, no visible wear ridge. So when we measured the pulley clearances, they were within the factory tolerance range that Hyundai lists in the service manual. Where we did find wear was in the hydraulic control system. The pressure regulator valves in the valve body showed measurable wear at 200,000 miles. And the pressure sensors were reading slightly outside spec. Both are known service items on this transmission, and they explain the slight lag on hard acceleration that some high mileage owners report. The torque converter surprised us in a good way. The lockup clutch surface showed light glazing, but no discoloration, no warping. The IVT is one of the few CVTs that includes a full torque converter with a lockup clutch, and that architectural choice absorbs a lot of the stress that would otherwise fall on the chain belt itself. So the converter is essentially acting as a shock absorber for the drivetrain, which is why the belt and pulleys held up better than we expected. Now the caveat, the early production IVTs, the ones built before June of 2020, had a genuinely serious software problem in the transmission control unit. Multiple class action lawsuits, complete failures at 25 and 30,000 miles. If you are buying used, you check the build date, you check for the TSB software update, and you look for a service history. Post-fix with the software update applied, the IVT is a much better transmission than most people give it credit for. The teardown proved it. Rebuild costs run around $2,000 to $2,800 at an independent shop that knows Hyundai CVTs, which is a smaller pool than for conventional automatics. So the IVT did not win, but it did not lose either, and that alone is a bigger achievement than most reviewers would give this transmission credit for. Because the working assumption in the transmission industry for the last 20 years has been that CVTs do not make it to 200,000 miles, full stop. Nissan built that reputation, and every other manufacturer has been pulling against it since. The IVT with the chain belt and with the software fix applied is proof that a well-designed CVT can defy that assumption. The 6-speed conventional automatic. Hyundai calls it the A6 family. The A6MF sits behind the smaller engines, the 2-liter and the 2.4. The A6LF sits behind the bigger engines, the 3.3, 3.5, and 3.8. Same architecture, different torque ratings. Introduced in 2009, 3 braking clutches, 2 driving clutches, 1-way clutch, and a compact 3 planetary gear set. 6 forward gears, torque converter with lockup, nothing exotic, just a well-engineered conventional automatic. The unit we tore down came from a 2017 Santa Fe A6LF3 with 211,000 miles on it. Owner had been changing the fluid every 45,000 miles, using genuine Hyundai SP4 since day one. Never towed heavy, mostly highway, pan pull first. Fluid was still a little pink, only slightly darkened from red toward brown. Trace friction material on the magnet, appropriate for the mileage. Fluid particle count was the lowest of all 3 transmissions in this test. This unit had been treated well, and the fluid showed it. The valve body was where the real story showed up. The bore surfaces still showed factory hone marks under magnification, so the machine finish that Hyundai put on those valve bores at the factory over 200,000 miles ago was still visible. Solenoid pack was within spec. No stuck pressure regulators, no sludge accumulation on any of the internal passages. The clutch packs came out looking usable. Not brand new obviously, but with measurable friction material remaining on every disc. The steels were flat, no coning, no heat spotting. The clutch clearances measured within about 8% of the factory specification. That is the signature of a transmission that has been operating well inside its design envelope its entire life. The torque converter lockup clutch was in good condition. No heat discoloration, no glazing. The A6 lockup engages fewer times per mile than a 10-speed or a wet DCT, so less thermal cycling, less friction wear. A 6-speed automatic makes roughly 40% fewer lockup and unlock cycles per mile than a 10-speed. So over 200,000 miles, that difference adds up to hundreds of thousands of fewer heat cycles on the converter clutch surface. The 3 planetary gear sets, the shafts, and the pump all came out looking used but functional. Bearings within tolerance. No pitting on the gear teeth. The pump housing showed the light polish that comes from 200,000 miles of fluid flowing through it, but nothing that would affect pressure output. We're looking at a transmission that could reasonably run another 50,000 miles without intervention, provided the fluid changes continue. And there's one more thing worth mentioning. The A6 family does have a known weakness. Solenoid pack failures start showing up around 150,000 miles if the fluid has never been changed. That is a shop repair, but it is not a full rebuild. So if you catch a solenoid before it takes out the valve body, you are looking at a $500 fix, not a $3,000 one. Documented service life on a maintained A6LF consistently runs past 250,000 miles. Fleet records, taxi services in some markets, and Uber drivers in the US have reported the A6 family crossing 300,000 on the original transmission with fluid changes. Rebuild cost, if it ever gets to that point, runs about $2,200 to $3,200 at an independent shop, which is genuinely reasonable. And most competent transmission shops in the country will take the work because the A6 is a common enough platform. One important note on this teardown, the winner was not just the A6. The winner was the A6 paired with an owner who changed the fluid every 45,000 miles, even though Hyundai said it was lifetime. An A6 that has never had a fluid change looks very different on the bench. So the architecture is what gave this transmission the chance. Maintenance is what let it take that chance. The A6 is not the flashiest transmission Hyundai has ever built. It does not brag on the spec sheet. And that turned out to be exactly what saved it. The verdict, 3 transmissions. 3 different engineering philosophies. One clear result. The 7-speed, dry, DCT is the transmission that lost this test before we even got to the bench. Because we could not find one that made it to 200,000 miles to tear down. That is not a fluid problem. That is not a maintenance problem. That is an architecture problem. The dry clutch design does not survive stop-and-go traffic. And stop-and-go traffic is where most of these cars actually spend their lives. Hyundai and Kia discontinued this transmission for exactly the reason our teardown showed. The SmartStream IVT earned a result better than most owners expected. Post the early production software problems, this is a legitimately durable transmission for what it is. The chain belt design proved out. The variator pulleys held up. And with disciplined maintenance, this transmission clearly can cross 200,000 miles in usable condition. But the A6 is the clear winner of this test, and it won for exactly the reasons that make it look boring on a spec sheet. Fewer shifts per mile than a modern 8-speed, simpler valve body than a wet DCT, torque headroom that kept it working inside its design envelope every mile of its service life. So it did not have to work hard to move the car, and that is what let it survive. Modern does not mean more durable. Faster shifting does not mean longer lasting. And more efficient on the EPA test cycle does not mean cheaper to own over 10 years. The evidence is on the bench.